Hey everyone, this is Essie Daniel, an executive program leader with Maxwell Leadership, and you're listening to your favorite podcast of Leaders Connect series. Today, we are talking about the 4Ds of self-management. Welcome. The practice of self-management, also commonly known as time management, requires focus and conscious planning to help you win back the control of your busy day and overcome time management barriers. If you're like me, sometimes I look at a week or even a day and I wonder, what happened to that day? What did I do in the month of May? Yeah. But it's very, very important to plan out your time. We are all busy and time remains the same. Whether you do something or you don't, time still passes by. And today in our time together, I will briefly show you how to plan and prioritize each day's activities in a more efficient and productive manner. I'll help you learn how to overcome procrastination quickly and easily. And I'll show you how to handle unexpected barriers and distractions. How about things like delegating? We all want to learn how to delegate more efficiently or even plan meetings more appropriately and effectively. And so after today's session, this is more of an introduction, kind of like an order, if I may put it in the food way. Yeah. But after today's session, I want to come back in about 3 or 4 sessions. I'll try to see if I can combine one of the Ds and make it 3 sessions instead of 4. But I'll come back this week and do a deeper dive on each of those 4 Ds of self-management. So how does that sound? Great. All right. I'm checking my notes to make sure that I am not going ahead of myself. Steve Jobs once said that focus is something that is so crucial. And what it means is you say no to something that you think and feel with every bone in your body. It is a phenomenal idea. And you wake up thinking about it. You spend the day thinking about it. You go to bed thinking about it, but you still say no. And the reason you say no is because you're focusing on something else. That to me describes someone who is disciplined with how they manage themselves. You see, time management or self-management, one and the same thing, has a twin sister called focus, because they go hand in hand. For you to manage yourself well, you've got to learn the skill and the art of focus, of staying focused. But before I get out of my I get out of topic and take a deeper dive on 1D before I even tell you what it is, which is what I plan on doing later on this week, let's talk about the 4Ds. What are these 4Ds? The 4Ds of self-management are delete, delegate, defer, and do. The 4Ds of time management strategies will help you manage your schedule. It will help you postpone or discard tasks. Yeah. Or even assign someone else to do some of the things that you are presently doing that you should not be doing. It also helps you do the things that are important and that will give you the greatest return. Let's briefly talk about delete. You see, deleting encourages you to learn to say no and to carefully filter what you are engaging in. I like to give the examples of two travelers that were taking a vacation. They had two same size suitcases, same brand, same size, same everything. One of the travelers was able to pack more things in his suitcase because they took the time to arrange them, to fold them nicely, to package them, to compartmentalize their items. And you will understand what I mean when I start talking about the other traveler. And so their suitcase was full and it had everything that they needed. But then on the other hand, we look at the other traveler who has their suitcase full, and unfortunately, they did not take the time to pack their stuff nicely. So by the time he's arriving, his clothes are creased up. He's learning that he left some things behind. Some gels and liquids leaked into his clothes and documents. But hey, he made it. He has at least most of his items. But guess what? Some of them are no good because they will not serve him. And this right here describes the 24 hours each one of us gets every day. We each get 24 hours a day. There are those who achieve more in the 24 hours, and there are those who achieve less in 24 hours. And there are those who achieve, who get everything done in those 24 hours, but there's no order. There's chaos. And that is the purpose of this new series of podcasts that I'm doing this week, is to help you utilize these 4 Ds. The delete, delegate, defer, and do. Yeah, I just realized I had not said defer before. Yeah, that was the 4th D. And so you want to carefully, with deleting, with the first D, deleting, you want to carefully delete and eliminate things that should not make way into your suitcase in the first place. Remember the two travelers we talked about. Sometimes we end up incorporating things in our lives that are not necessary. Let's learn to say no. And there's a good book called Boundaries that will help you set those boundaries. When a friend calls you and says, hey, I see we're going for coffee this afternoon, say, thank you so much for thinking of me, but let's defer that to another day. Or, nope, I know where this conversation will lead. Not interested. Because if you're going to a meeting or a coffee chat and you're coming out of that meeting feeling low, feeling discouraged and crushed, then you need to utilize the delete D, right? So anyway, so learn to say no, learn to carefully filter your to-do list. Not everything that makes its way out of your mind and onto a paper when we're doing what we call mind dumping, not everything will need to be done. There are those things that will need to be deleted, and so you need to cross them out or even highlight them with a red Sharpie if you have one. Yeah, red for delete. All right, so that you can make room for what is important. Let's look at the second D. The second D is delegate. And delegate should include tasks that don't require the specific know-how of a task or whatever it is that we're working on. And so this means we're going to reassign this work or reassign this activity to someone who is more efficient, or someone who has the time, someone that will do this task even better than you could do it. You see, as a leader, you want to focus on doing the things that only you can do and no one else. And that, my friend, is delegation. If you sit down and you think, wait, who else can send those minutes? And you have someone in mind, then that means that that is a task that you need to delegate to that other person. Chances are they'll do it better, and they definitely have the time to work on that as you work on something that is more important. So as we talk about delegating, I want you to think in terms of what are those things that someone else can do, and provide them with instructions like, this is the deadline, this is what I think you should do, but then give them the liberty to do or to function in, or rather to use their creativity and to get the work done in their own way. I know that's hard for many leaders, but then it's very, very helpful to allow other people to use their creativity, to empower them, and to allow their leadership skills also to develop. And so long as the person that you've put in charge of this task has all the required skills that they need to fulfill the task, then guess what? Delegate and let them take that with them. Let them run with it, as my pastor always said. And then let's look at the fourth, or rather the third D, which is defer. Defer can be used by leaders to postpone tasks that are not time sensitive. Whether it's a new task or a new request, a new project, or an extended deadline, or any work that can be postponed in favor of immediate priorities. This is what we're talking about, or we're referring to as deferred. So what are some things that come to your plate or come to your mind that don't need to be done at that particular moment, but certainly they are important? It's just that they are not important at this very moment. We defer such things, such meetings, such phone calls, and we schedule them to another time. And so we ought to ask ourselves, is this urgent? Is it important? Definitely it's important. Is it urgent? No, it's not urgent. If it's not urgent, then it gets deferred and it is scheduled. And I always like to say, schedule and set an alarm for it, or set a reminder for it. And don't set the alarm or the reminder to remind you at the time, the very time when that project will be due. Maybe set an alarm to remind you. I'll set a reminder to remind you maybe a week before, and maybe another one to remind you 2 days before, and maybe another one to remind you the day of, until you get to the habit of utilizing your planner. You see, before a child learns how to walk, they take baby steps. And there are times they fall, there are times they get up and they use a walker, there are times they walk while they are holding on to the wall and the chairs. But eventually when they learn to walk, They do not need anything to support them because they've known, or rather they now can walk comfortably. And then they advance onto running. And so what I'm sharing with us is whatever you need to do to master these 3 Ds that we have already covered, and we're going to cover the 4th one here shortly. Do it. If you need to set alarms 3 weeks out, and then a second reminder 1 week out, the last reminder the day off, maybe about 2 hours before, do what you must. Take baby steps until you get good. We all started somewhere. We all begin somewhere. But eventually we get to where we need to be. All right, so we talked about deferring, in other words, postponing, so that we can create time for the time-sensitive projects. And then the last D is the do. And do is as straightforward as it gets. Just do it. Nike, just do it. Start working on the task or the project immediately and focus your attention on one thing at a time until it is get done. You see, you may need to use the Pomodoro technique where you set a 20-minute timer and you don't lift your head or wake up and go get some water until you have done what you need to do in those 20 minutes. After the buzzer goes off, then you can wake up and stretch and go drink some water, maybe have lunch, and then come back and set another timer for 20 minutes. But whatever you must do, do it so that you can get your work or your project done. So those are the 4 Ds. In the beginning, we talked about, and I believe it's on this video here, we talked about self-management having a twin sister by the name focus. And we started by quoting a quote or a saying by Steve Jobs, where he said that focus means saying no to something that you think with every bone in your body it is a phenomenal idea, and you wake up thinking about it, but you say no to it because you're focusing on something else. You see, this last D of self-management, which is do, it goes hand in hand with focus. Focus is a skill that can be learned. And the more time and attention you devote to one task, the greater the quality of the work you will produce. And so it's about finding what it is that you want to accomplish, and then you work on it. Once you've identified it's not something that you need to delete, you've identified it's not something you need to defer or even delegate, it is something that you need to do, then do it. Break the task into blocks or into portions and work on each portion. Focus and work on each portion until it is complete. I know we live in a world that has so many distractions. We cannot be everywhere. We cannot save the whole world. We cannot do everything. Neither can we have everything, because time limits us. Time is your greatest and the most limited, the greatest commodity, if I may say it that way, but it's also the most limited and most important resource, because you can earn more money, but you cannot earn more time. So it's important, it's imperative that we focus. How attentive are you? Anyway, so let's not go deeper because I plan on doing a deeper dive later on this week. But stay with me because there is so much to learn and so much sharpening that we will do here. We'll sharpen each other. I'll learn from you as you learn from me. And so I want to hear from you what you're learning. What are some techniques or some systems that you have that helps you manage yourself and stay productive? I would love to hear some of the rituals that you have. Let's grow together. Let's learn together. And once again, thank you for tuning in today. We talked about the 4 Ds of self management, which most people refer to as self or rather time management. And later on in the week, we'll do a deeper dive on these 4 items, on these 4 Ds: the do, defer, delete, and delegate. So until next time, Essie Daniel here, and I look forward to our session together. Have a blessed day, and don't forget to like and subscribe our channel, or you can also find us on Leaders Connect podcast on any of the podcast channels out there. Thank you. Bye-bye.